John Ballard is the Scotsman who moved to Sweden and quickly became a Swedish pop star. He competed 2 years in a row in the Swedish Melodifestivalen during the 80s, but has never since been allowed to participate again, despite several attempts and huge successes worldwide with his music. In November 2021, we had a long conversation, and I have divided it into 2 sections. The first here with a focus on Melodifestivalen, rejected songs that he sent in, some that have never been played before, but also some songs that were later recorded by big international artists. But we also spoke a lot of Ace of Base, because he was the guy who discovered them. If you're not interested in Swedish music history and just wanted to hear the untold and non-censored stories about his 5 songs in Eurovision, go directly to the second episode. This is Eurovision Legends with your, well, not exactly ace, but perhaps a queen of bass, Emil Löfström. Welcome to Eurovision Legends, John Ballard.
Hello, hi.
First of all, I'm so grateful that you wish to take part and talk to me, and we have so much to talk about, I think. Not only pre-selections and Eurovision, but we must talk about your work as a solo artist, Ace of Base, and other acts you have written and produced for.
Okay, that sounds good.
You know, I was the biggest fan of Ace of Base myself as a young and proud kid in the darkest parts of Dalsland's forest. But enough about me. You were born in Scotland and moved to Sweden and studied to become a teacher.
Yeah.
Why Sweden?
Okay, as a folk singer, my family worked with music and the theatre and whatever, so when I was just about to go to university in Aberdeen, I got a summer job as a folk singer in a place called McTavish's Kitchens in Oban on the west coast of Scotland.
Yeah.
That was a 7-day-week job. They had entertainment every evening, and I did like a 30-minute spot. I very quickly became the conferencier, running the show, and I did that for the whole summer. It was fantastic. Then I moved to Fort William, and both restaurants or establishments were actually semi-owned by a Swede called Stellan Melin. And he said, John, why don't you come to Sweden and do what you're doing for me at a couple of my hotels in Sweden?
Yeah.
So I came to Stockholm, and I came to Norrköping, and then finally to Gothenburg on like a 3-month trip. And this is in the early 70s, and there was a massive difference between earning a living in the UK, Scotland, or in Sweden. Sweden was at the top of its prime then, really. And I just loved it. I was making good money, and I enjoyed what I was doing. So I moved my studies from Aberdeen University to Gothenburg University.
And you still are here in Sweden and in Gothenburg.
Yes, I am, my friend. Yes, my folks back home, they say, John, you've been in Sweden now for that's a few years back now. But when I'd been here for 20 years,
yeah,
my mum said, my God, you've been there for 20 years now. Isn't it time to come back home? But I've always loved the water, and Gothenburg for me, and Sweden, but in particular Gothenburg, has everything. It's got the sea, the coast, the weather, lovely people. I just love Sweden.
I totally agree, and I live in the same city. If we move forward to 1980, some songs were released with you as a solo artist.
That's right.
The record company was Marianne, which dominated the Swedish selection for Eurovision during the 80s and was run by the very intense Bert Karlsson.
That's right.
Who probably everyone in the industry has an opinion about.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Yeah, first of all, before I say, I like Bert, and I still do, but he was a very, very special man, and I must tell you a story then. I wrote a song called, the band Friends. It was their first single.
Vi behöver varann.
That's right. Thank you, Emil. You know my track record better than me. And I'm sitting in a restaurant in Fjällbacka in the middle of the summer, and I get a telephone call from Bert. And Bert says, John, you have this song called Vi behöver varann. I've got it here as a demo, and I want to record it with a new group. They're going to have a TV series on TV4, a new group. And but what I want is I want the publishing on the song.
Yeah.
And I said, nah, I don't think so, Bert. I've recorded that song. I've had some costs and whatever. So no, thank you, but no, thank you. Okay, he said. So, and he puts the phone down. 2 minutes later, he phones again and says, look, come on, I'll make it a single. I promise you it will get a gold record in Sweden. But why don't you give me half the publishing then? And I said, well, okay, that seems a fair deal. Okay, fine, great. So we're in agreement? Yeah, sure. He said, wait a minute, I'll put you on the loudspeaker telephone, and Pling Forsman was there, and Dille Didriksen was there, a few other people. He says, so they can all hear you, John. We are in agreement then that I get 50% of the publishing rights. Yes, Bert, you don't have to do this with me. I don't lie. I stick to my word, but okay, yeah, we're in agreement. And then he said, fine, well, just listen to this. And he played the finished single. They'd already recorded it, had the cover. It was going to be released the next day.
Yeah.
So that's it. And the record did get a gold record, and it did become the single on the series, etc. So he kept his word, but he obviously didn't give me all the information.
Vi behöver varann. Du vet det är sant. Jag vill och jag vågar, om bara du frågar. Vi kan väl lova att ses igen.
And that kind of sums for me up Bert. He's always delivered, but there's always been maybe a little twist somewhere.
Yeah, and the year after, Friends represented Sweden in Eurovision with Listen to Your Heartbeat. I must ask, how old were the song Vi behöver varann?
That wasn't old. That was maybe 2 years old.
Okay, yeah.
I've written a lot of songs, and that's how sometimes I've had a long career. I've written lots of songs for loads of people. That's sometimes it's difficult to, as you probably, when we spoke before, I kind of mix up the dates, and sometimes I can mix up a song. But that one is definitely for real. The whole story there is definitely for real.
Were any of the songs submitted to the pre-selection for Eurovision in Sweden, Melodifestivalen, among the songs that was published by Marianne? I asked since I noticed that one of them was exactly 3 minutes long, and that always makes my spider senses tingle.
Okay. What song was that?
Come Along and Sing My Song.
Ah, yeah, that's right. That was presented. Yes, it was. I wrote that, and I sang it as well on the demo. Come along and sing my song. I want you to sing along. Yeah, I know that one.
Come along and sing my song. I want you to sing along. Make you feel alright if you're lonesome tonight. Come along and sing my song. I want you to sing along. Make you feel alright if you're lonesome tonight. Come along.
I know you. Sorry to interrupt, but I know that you wasn't a Swedish citizen during this time, and to compete in Melodifestivalen and submit a song that you have written, you had to be. But that has never stopped Bert Karlsson. He pretended to be Nick Borgen before he was a Swedish citizen in the 90s, and still no one knows what Venus Butterfly is.
Yeah.
Känna kroppen vibrera, Venus Butterfly. Om du finns någonstans så finner jag dig. Venus Butterfly. Ditt namn har all mystik. Ingen vet vem du är, var du finns, bara att du ger kärlek.
on the other hand, that was the same thing in 83 and 84 when I was part of when I performed I wasn't allowed, I wrote loads of songs, but let's put it this way, I had to give away, if you want, I couldn't be responsible for if I wrote a melody or a lyric, that just had to be, give it away because I couldn't be part of it. And that's the way it was.
You didn't remain long at Bert Karlsson's company, Marianne, and instead moved to Glendisk.
Yes.
Why?
But just before we get out, there's one thing that I don't know if you know about, and that is the reason I was on Hylands hörna.
Yep.
Which is everybody in Sweden has heard about Hylands hörna.
Absolutely.
And I sang 2 songs.
Yeah.
And after I came off the stage, Bert Karlsson called me. And he said, look, I want to record and make a single. And that's how that whole started. And the song I recorded was a song called Here Comes the Light.
Yep.
And Here Comes the Light was released and represented Sweden in the Europatoppen.
Together with Secret Service, I believe.
That's right. And I beat Secret Service as well.
Yeah. That's impressive.
We'll get back to that story a little bit later because there's a little twist there with Ola Håkansson.
Yeah.
As you know, and I'll tell you the twist. The twist is that I've been signed by PWL in London. Peter Waterman had some...
Stockett and Waterman.
That's right.
Yep.
Massive hits. Hits. And I was there for almost a year writing songs for PWL.
Okay.
And I came, and they had an arrangement with Ola Håkansson. Anyway, I came to Stockholm with 3 or 4 demos that I'd recorded in England. And Ola Håkansson, this is before Here Comes the Light, and Ola Håkansson wasn't really interested. He didn't hear it. He thought it was very British. The whole thing was too British for him and whatever. And then a couple of months later, I'm competing against him in the Europe. And so it was a bit of a joke. Well, okay, you didn't like the song, Ola, but half of Europe did. So there you go.
If we go back to Glendisk, it was run by Bruno Glenmark, who was and still is married to Ann-Louise Hansson, who you participated together with in Melodifestivalen in 1983.
Right. Yes.
How did the two of you end up there?
Well, simply because I was helping Bruno Glenmark sign me as a solo artist, as a writer, and I was helping different people. Lots of the time I was helping with translations and the English. Like, for example, I helped David Dahlgren and Pernilla Wahlgren, different people that were there. They just wanted, they were going to release the songs in English. So he had a little stable of people. He had Anders Glenmark, Karen Glenmark, Pernilla, and a couple of others I can't remember. But so we were. I don't want to use the word a big happy family, but because Bruno owned his own studio in Stocksund, we all kind of hung out there and met there, and I actually stayed in a flat above the studio, a little apartment.
Okay.
When I was there.
Yeah.
So that and it just became. I think Ann-Louise had been on the Melodifestivalen so many times. I think that Bruno felt that I was an up and coming young guy that maybe we could do a duet, and that would, give her a better chance, really.
Bara en enda gång händer det att allting känns så rätt. Stämmer alltid på något konstigt sätt. Som nu när du är mig nära. Bara en enda gång finns det någon som sjunger samma sång som du själv. Kärlekens sång hör du bara.
And I enjoyed that. I mean, for me then, that was the first time I'd never really paid any attention to the Melodifestivalen, because in the UK, the Melodifestivalen, the Eurovision Song Contest, wasn't really important for the music industry then. I don't know whether it is now either, to be honest with you. But I know that when I came to the UK after '84, when I did a solo project, as you well know, that, the managers and the people I met there, they said, for God's sake, don't say that you've been part of the Eurovision Song Contest. That's not a plus here.
Yeah,
so there you go.
The song you competed with and ended up 5th with was composed by Anders Glenmark with lyrics by Ingela Pling Forsman. Was this the only song submitted? Do you know that?
I think it was actually. I think the rules. This is just as I remember it, so I don't know whether this is 100% correct. But in those days, I think the publishers were allowed to enter, depending on what success they'd had the years before. The SVT, they wanted to get in something like a total of 90 songs, and from the 90 songs, you were given a quote. So I think Glenmark had something like 3 or 4 songs to present, something like that. And one of them obviously was Bara en enda gång. And so, I was asked by Bruno if I wanted to do it, and I said, yeah, great. And I do remember saying, well, I've got like 100 of my own songs. Couldn't I sing one of them?
Yeah.
But that was, as you already mentioned, because I was a British citizen, I wasn't allowed to apply.
Yeah. An English version of the song was recorded and released. Do you remember the title?
Oh my goodness! I didn't. That's just amazing, Emil, because I have no recollection of that English version was released. but you spoke a little bit about Bert Karlsson before. There's not really that much difference between Bruno Glenmark and Bert Karlsson, really. I have no idea. But it should be. No, I have no idea. Tell me.
Giving My Heart Away.
Giving my heart away. Is it me that's singing it?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It was actually released on compilation for Eurovision 1983. Wow. And on that cassette was 2 songs from the Swedish Melodifestivalen in English. Wow.
Well, let's put it this way. I can say, Emil, I'm going to call Bruno Glenmark because I've never received any royalties from that.
Yeah, do that.
Don't know if I can take it. I've never given my all. Will I ride in the wind? Will I stumble and fall?
Waking up in the morning, see the sun coming through. Been spending my nights dreaming of you. Giving my heart away. Never thought that I could feel this way. Never wanted more to share this day with you. I knew now or never. Giving my heart away. Dancing to the music in the air of the night. Live for the day when you give your heart away. Giving my heart away. Never thought that I could feel this way. Never wanted more to share this day with you. I knew now or never. Giving my heart away.
Carola won a gigantic victory, and
Yes.
you got a taste for Melodifestivalen because the following year, 1984, you were back in the contest.
Yes, that's right.
This time the song was titled Rendezvous and written
Rendezvous,
by
yeah.
Bjarne Nyqvist and Paula af Malmborg.
Yes.
Tell me, how did this happen?
Once again, I was signed to Bruno Glenmark, and I think you've got to remember, 1983-84, there was only Swedish television. There wasn't like 120 other channels,
No.
TV channels. So the Melodifestivalen played a big, big part.
Yeah.
And
especially since Carola did this breakthrough from it the year before.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, I didn't need to be persuaded much because I knew that it was the media-wise, it was the biggest TV show of the year. And as long as I did something that I thought was okay and as a performance and as a performer, I thought, I'll go for it. And it resulted in I got a 2-year sponsorship from Björn Borg's clothes.
Mm-hmm.
In the final there, I'm wearing a lime green Björn Borg with the stripes down the side of the trousers, etc.
Yep.
That was fun going to the factories that Björn Borg had and just going in and they said, take what you want, You know, I mean, it was you know, that was good fun. Got myself some suits and some clothes, and that was good. I enjoyed the whole thing with the rendezvous.
Rendezvous som en evig patiens. Rendezvous vänder upp ett kort, men du gömmer det någonstans. Rendezvous och jag letar som i trans. Rendezvous, snart är leken slut. Sista kortet blir min chans. Rendezvous och jag letar som i trans. Rendezvous, snart är leken slut. Sista kortet blir min chans.
The conflict that arrived there was that really I had a rock and roll band. I was around playing in Sweden, Poland, France, and England. We were, you know, the John Ballard act, we were called, and we were doing pretty well. So for a lot of my, if I had any fans at the time, but for a lot of the people that I can call them fans, they were a bit shocked about me. So I kind of changed, my audience changed a little bit after that.
Yeah.
And in 1984, I think I did something like 65 concerts, you know, in the summer, in the folk parks tourney and all the different things you do in Sweden. So it was a massive, I mean, I must say, I didn't win it. I was lying, I think, very close with one group left. It was only me or Herreys really that could do, everybody thought was going to win it.
Yeah.
And, you know, good luck for Grace. They had a really catchy song. The Hooray Boys and me, we're still friends. We say hello when we meet up, etc., etc. So it was, you know, I felt like a winner, although I came third, just pipped at the second there. But I still felt like a winner. I think I'd done well, and it's all live, and there's no tricks with autotune or everything. In those days, you can either sing or you can't sing. It's as simple as that.
I spoke to Rickard Herrey in this podcast in a previous episode, and he told me that Herrey was offered another song too for the Swedish Melodifestivalen the same year, but turned that song down. So instead, one of the composers sang the song in Melodifestivalen. And a funny nerd fact here is that you wrote the English lyrics for that song later when it was released for the world market with Herrey. Do you know which song I'm referring to?
No.
Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
It competed as Kall som is in Melodifestivalen.
That's right. Yeah. Now that you say it, I had it on the tip of my tongue. I knew I'd written something, but I couldn't remember what title. I mean, just the reason why you may think, Mike, doesn't he remember anything? Last year, I wrote for Greece. I wrote 80 lyrics for songs that were going to be entered to the Eurovision Song Contest. 80.
Oh my God!
And that's one country, 80 lyrics.
Yeah.
So that's you know, I've written a few lyrics in my time.
Yeah. Oh my God. We have to talk about those later. But after the year 1984, the most interesting thing begins, I think, because you got to compete twice, 2 years in a row, and then you have never been in the show again. At least not yet.
No.
Why?
I'll be honest with you. I don't know why. I've had that question a few times. I've met with Krista, you know, a few times, and I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I think number one, it wasn't really something that I tried to get into myself, if you understand what I mean. It was more, you know, I represented Sweden in Sopot.
In Poland.
Yeah, and then I spent 3 weeks with my band touring Russia. And this is way before the Iron Curtain collapses.
Yeah.
So we were like 3 weeks, we were playing at the Olympic Stadium in St. Petersburg and the Olympic Stadium in Moscow twice a day for 40, 50,000 people every show. You know, writing songs, I'm not saying every song I've written has a meaning, but try to have a good lyric and it's saying something about, it can be about love or it can be about wanting to be with someone or they've left you or whatever, you know, or just having a good time, like Come Along and Sing My Song, for example, as you said there, was just something to make people happy. And I've written quite a few songs like that where when you get a bit older, you start writing maybe different lyrics, but so and I never really tried the years 86 to 90 to get to be a part of the show again at that time. And of course that's when I started. I had my studios and I was working with lots of other people helping them. And you know, at the end of the day, I think you know, I was reasonably successful at that.
But one song I learned 3 years ago when I did a series of rejected songs to Melodifestivalen was submitted between 1989 and 1995 to Melodifestivalen was the song Together, which instead of becoming a Melodifestivalen entry ended up as a theme for a Swedish TV series.
Yeah. And well, the song wasn't called Together. The group is called Together.
The group was called Together, okay.
The song is called Bara vi är vänner.
Yeah, that's right. And it stayed 6 weeks in a row as number 1 on the singles chart.
Yeah. What can you say about that? You tell me, Emil.
But I remember the TV series and I remember the song and I remember it was a big hit.
Yeah. I can say this, Emil, that I still perform about 10, 15 times a year. I dress up in my kilt.
Yeah.
And my friend Eric and me, and we do like for events or companies or somebody's, it's their birthday or whatever, and we sing in the kilts. And we sing Scottish songs, a lot of Scottish, Irish, English folk songs. I introduced the song by saying, this is a song that I sent into the Melodifestivalen for so many years and it never even got amongst the last 100, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So I got this band, put them together, made a group and called them together, 3 guys, and we released the track. And as you say, it was number 1 for weeks and weeks and weeks. It got to be a series. And I sang the song with Eric, with 2 acoustic guitars, a bass or whatever, 2-part harmony. And people go, they love it.
Jag ser mig runt omkring, men jag saknar ingenting. Bara vi är vänner. Vi behöver inget mer. Känn en värme som det ger. Bara vi är vänner. Genom alla mörka stunder. Det bästa som jag har. Det faller ett regn från himmelen. Det är en gåva som ger liv igen. Det kommer en tid i våra liv. Vi måste våga se sanningen. Det faller ett regn från himmelen. Det är en gåva som ger liv igen. Det kommer en tid i våra liv. Vi måste våga se sanningen.
They absolutely love it. They all know the song, and they all go, "Did you write that song? Wow!" And how could that not make it to the last 100 in the unit? You tell me.
Well, I don't know, but do you still have the demo that you submitted in 1989?
I think I have, and I'm going to try and find it for you. I'm pretty sure because I did an acoustic version and I did a radio version. I did a few other things. The good thing about that is that when I put together this band together was that we had quite a lot of success with the band together, as well. So in a way, it became a good thing of it. But I still, to this day, I have a couple of other songs that I'm going to send to you, and when I'm pretty sure that when you hear them, you'll think, wow, you know what? And it's not a case of just, I can understand that if you're competing with another song that's maybe close to the area where you are, that one is beaten by that one song. But I've sent them in over so many years that you would have thought that one year that some of them would have made it. But there you go. Nobody believed that. Well, we'll get to Ace of Base later, and I'll continue the theme here when I get to Ace of Base.
When I talked to you on the phone last week, you mentioned Bubbles, who competed in Melodifestivalen in 2003 and 2004.
Yeah.
And before we talk about them, I must mention one thing here, because I think this is funny. One of the composers to TKO, Paul Rain, who is a friend of mine, and who has composed the jingle of this podcast, had some big international hits with artists like Christina Aguilera and Jessica Simpson in the beginning of 2000. And he wrote the song TKO that Bubbles competed with to Ricky Martin from the beginning.
I didn't know that
song has been played for Ricky Martin before it later competed in Melodifestivalen. And let's listen to the original demo of TKO here.
Okay.
Knock you out, down to the floor. DJ's gonna hit it, get ready for more. Knock you out of control. The speed is gonna take you to a TKO. Everybody getting up, feel the bass, don't you stop. This party's gonna make you sweat. Everybody place your best. You won't be saved by the bell. This place is harder than hell. Knock you out, down to the floor. DJ's gonna hit it, get ready for more. Knock you out of control. The speed is gonna take you to a TKO.
Well, that's not something you hear every day in the same sentence. Ricky Martin, Melodifestivalen, and Bubbles. You said to me that songs with them were submitted to Melodifestivalen before TKO.
Yeah.
But I must ask you, because the oldest girl in Bubbles was born in 1987, and Rock the World was released in 2000, so they couldn't have participated because they were too young.
But and I checked up on my diaries and I checked a little bit. You're right, but the song was sent. I had that, like so many other songs, where maybe not exactly. I remember I changed the verses a little bit to suit Hannah's voice. So, but the song "Rock the World" was presented to the jury for the Melodifestivalen along with the other songs.
Wanna fly high above in the sky, looking all over the world. People get ready now, and I see everything I want to see, surrounding every part of me. People get ready now. We gonna rock the world. We gonna dance all night. We gonna rock the world. We gonna make it right. Every boy and girl.
There have been years where I've been sitting with 10, 12 people at Tough Studios and we've maybe entered 15 or 20 songs that have just been composed to the Melodifestivalen. So it was a big thing at one point. And because we never had any success really with it, but off the top of my head, maybe 30-40% of those songs have been released later and done quite well.
We gotta rock the world. We gotta rock the world. Rock the world. We gotta dance all night. Dance all night. We gotta rock the world. Rock the world. We gotta make it right. Make it right. Every boy and girl, everywhere you turn, we gonna show you how to rock the world. We
I had one song, for example, for David that was presented to me, and I don't remember the year now because but I can check that later on.
Yeah.
A guy called Björn Stenström, who worked with me with Ace of Base, we wrote a song, sent it up to the Melodifestivalen. It didn't make it. I'm not saying it's a big Eurovision song, but it had something in the song, because when I then sent it to companies in Germany, I was immediately contacted, and they said, we have a very famous guy who we want to sing this song. And I said, okay, and who's that? And that's David Hasselhoff. So David Hasselhoff recorded a song called A Slow Night in the City.
Well, it's a slow night in the city. I lost my love for you. It's a slow night in the city of love. Well, it's a slow night in the city. I have to say what's true. It's a slow night in the city of love.
So, as I say, I'm not saying it would have won but at least it proves, like your song with the TKO.
And that song was released in 1997. When did you submit it to the Swedish pre-selection?
Well, it must have been the year before, I would have thought.
Do you know who sang it?
It was probably me who sang the demo. I sang quite a lot of the demos. And then I thought that was probably the reason why some of the songs wasn't getting there, because there was too much coming in with my vocal on it. So I changed tactics, and when we get further on, I've sent in songs with Jamie Mayer's vocal, a great song called Love Song, Like in a Love Song, and that's one of the songs you can play later.
Yeah.
It's still a great song. I think it's a great song, and everybody who's heard that song. And I still haven't released it publicly because I reckon it can still do quite well. you know, held on to it for 20 years or something. Ridiculous.
Did you say that it was 20 years old, the song?
No, but I have songs. Because I knew I was going to do this interview with you today. I've looked through and I've found songs from, the late 90s, the beginning of the 20s, that some of them have been released, but some of them haven't been released. And of course, sounds change, for example. But if you think of some of the songs with an up-to-date production today, as you probably, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but an awful lot of songs, I think today, don't have as strong melodies or lyrics.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
So if you when I contact bigger companies, like Warner, Universal, Sony, etc., with new artists, the feedback I get often is, that's not the sound we're looking for today. It's got to be this, modern sound. And with if you think about verses today, they're very minimalistic in the number of notes you hit.
Yeah.
They're more they can just be like 2 or 3 notes that are going up and down and 16 beats to the bar, etc., etc. Whereas before, verses, I think, they had to be better because your production could just be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Production.
Yeah. Okay, but so you found 5 songs that was sent to the committee. Can we talk about them, please?
Sure. I sent in 2 or 3 years in a row a song called Like in a Love Song with Jamie Mayer, which is a pop guitar-based song that I really thought, because Jamie was pretty actuel, as they say. He was current, and he's a good singer.
Did he come from Pop Stars or Fame Factory or some other?
He came from one of those places. Yeah.
I remember him. Yeah. I remember that he was a good-looking guy with a great voice.
Yeah.
How come we never kiss like in a love song?
Yeah, still is, and still. I don't know what he's doing. I think he moved to Nashville or somewhere, or America somewhere, to try his luck there.
Lately, I'm thinking about you all the time. Can't seem to get you off my mind, and that must mean something. Maybe we gave it up all too fast. We thought we had the love to last. Now it's in the past. Looking over my shoulder, stop before it's over. How did it come?
So I've got a song with him. I've got, now we're moving on a bit. That would be, I would have thought that would be about 2007 or 8 or something like that. Then I sent in a couple of songs with the group Enjoy, and one song that I wrote together with a couple of other people, not forgetting them, but I wrote, and we entered to Svensktoppen Nästa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the song was called Live for the Night, and that won the Gothenburg, slaughtered all the other competition there. It was absolutely fantastic, and they won that and that. But this is the other thing, and the song I think is a hit. It's a big hit song, but they didn't, from the 25 or 26 places in Sweden that have this Svensktoppen Nästa, to the final, only 8 are invited, and Enjoy were not invited, which was a total shock to everybody. And what happened with that song was then, so we didn't get to the final with Enjoy. I sent the song to the States, to New York, to a few people I knew there, and they loved it. And so the girls came over and they did like a 2 or 3 month tour in the United States based on that song.
I'm on my feet and hold my breath. It's in the air, a touch of magic. Out in the street, it's everywhere. I can feel it, I can feel it. Back on the beat, I'm doing fine. Got dressed so tight, I look fantastic. No hesitation, the world is mine. I can feel it, can you feel it? When I was young, I had a dream to never stop believing that I could be what I want to be. And I kept that feeling, and also gets me moving. And now we here, we shine, we smile, we're free. When I go and come alive, I live for, I live for, I live for, I live for the night, the night. Are you ready? Yeah, we live it for. I live for the night to enjoy. I live for you and me. I live for the night.
And then the company in the States Arista wanted them to stay, but the girls, they had boyfriends and families, and they turned it down. To be honest with you, they wanted to come back to Sweden, so that's what they did.
Okay.
So that one there. What else? Then I had another song with Enjoy called One Step at a Time.
Mm-hmm.
That we sent in 2 or 3 years and it didn't make it. And then I sent that to a couple of publishers in Europe, and Malta picked up on the song, and I can't remember her name now, but she sang it in the
Maltese pre-selection.
Maltese final, yeah.
Believe it was competed in 2018 with Danisa Muscat.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
One step at a time. 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 I guess it's time to let you know what I'm feeling. I guess it's time to push it and make my move. I made up my mind to leave all my fears behind me. I guess it's time to move on. There's no holding back. What's done is done. No crying, no lying. This time I'm taking one step at a time. One step at a time. Stepping out of the line, getting back on the track. One step at a time. One step at a time. One step at a time. Stepping out of the line, getting back on the track. One step at a time. For once in my life.
We sent in a song with called Lucky Day with Moje on the singer. Moje is now a kind of solo artist. This would also be about 2000 6, 7, something about there.
And he was one of the members in Together.
Together, yeah.
Yeah.
He was the lead singer. In
Yeah.
So we did that. And Moi was starting to become popular. We sent that in there, and it's a big song. It's a big, big song. It's a bit, what's his name? The English guy, Let Me Entertain You.
Robbie Williams.
Robbie Williams. It's a bit Robbie Williams. Big choirs, big song.
Once I had a girl, a beautiful girl, she belonged to me. Life was a dream, had the world at my feet, and someone took it away from me. But if I could go back in time, then you'd still be mine on a lazy day. Lying in bed, not a thought in my head. Maybe this'll be my lucky day. Walking down the street, got chains on my feet. Maybe this'll be my lucky day. Singing the blues, ain't got nothing to lose. Maybe this'll be my lucky day. Yeah. Oh, my lucky day. Looking for a girl in a big, big world. Can't leave you lonely. Looking for my soul, but never really knowing what's inside me. Looking for a girl in a big, big world. Can't leave you lonely. Looking for my soul, but never knowing where she's gonna be. Where she's gonna be. Sweet chains on my feet. Maybe this'll be my lucky day. Singing the blues, ain't got nothing to lose. Maybe this'll be my lucky day. Walking down the street, chains on my
that we did. And then I also have that I can let you hear them, but you can't put them on your pod.
Yeah.
And that is, we had 2 or 3 songs with, not everybody knows, but Hannah Ferm was signed
yeah.
to my company.
Oh,
She worked with me for 2 years,
yeah.
and we recorded. We had to wait until she was 16 because of the rules.
Yeah.
And we sent in a couple of songs with her, but then she, because of the whole idol thing,
Yeah.
you know, she left us and went to Universal because she had to.
Yeah.
You had to be signed to Universal to get to be a part of it all. So there's a few other bits and pieces. If we're talking about the Melodifestivalen, I can't really remember all the. There've been so many songs.
There is a song titled Can't Stop the Rain that Martina Edoff sang.
That's right. I wrote that together with Dille Didriksen.
Exactly. Wasn't that written for Melodifestivalen too?
Yes, it was. And it didn't make it. And Bert was really mad. He was really, really, really mad that he couldn't understand why that song. So
As he
then
always is during Melodifestivalen time.
But then she sang it on the TV show.
Fame Factory.
What was it? Yeah, Fame Factory. And actually won that month's final with that song.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, my 2 daughters, they love that song.
Me too.
Pretend that we just met for the first time. Let's forget and start again. Moment back in time when we laid down, made your mind right to the end. Close your eyes and take you back to heaven. Hold on tight is all we have to do. Can stop the rain from falling down. Can hear the laughter from the people all around. Can stop the tears I feel inside. There's not a cloud up in the sky. Can someone tell me why I can stop the rain?
In the late 80s, you had a short career as a glam rock musician. The band was called Ballard,
Yeah.
and the two other members were Ulf Widlund and Raven.
That's right. Björn Stenström, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know that this project sadly never became that success it should have, but I think we shall give it some justice and play one of the songs from the album here, because I love Standing in the Shadows.
Oh, I'm so happy you chose that song, because that's one of my favourites.
So I'm standing in the shadows, watching every move that you make. Standing in the shadows, waiting just as long as it takes. And it doesn't really matter, watching every move that you make. Standing in the shadows, waiting just as long as it takes.
I love that song. I love the way, the whole story behind it. Me and Ulf, we'd been Ulf was with me for a while, 2 or 3 months in London at the Stock Aitken
Waterman.
Waterman set up there. I've got so many stories about that. I can give you one. We worked the night shift, so we started work at 9 o'clock in the evening, just as the day crew went to the pub. We started. My audition, by the way, we can start. My audition in front of Peter Waterman, and so Peter Waterman says, "Okay, son, so can you sing?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I can sing pretty good. And what do you write?" And I said, "Well, I write songs." He said, "Okay, what's the last song you wrote?" And I said, "Well, I'm working on a song at the moment. I've just got it in my head. We haven't got further than that." And he said, "Sing it." And I'm standing there in the reception with all these people and that. And he says, "Sing it." And I said, "You want me to sing it?" And "Yes, sing it," he said. So, and I sang it. And what I sang was, "It's the middle of the night. It's the middle of the night. It's the middle of the night. And I'm hypnotized by my fever." He said, Stop. Right, you can start now. Go into room number 2. Where you go. And that song I wrote, recorded, but Ulf and Björn and a couple of other guys, Dile Didrikson, Martin Hedström, a few other guys there. As I say, we toured hundreds of gigs in Sweden and in Norway and in Poland, and we did hundreds and hundreds of gigs as a rock act, actually. And I love that. I love those things. It's lovely being a pop star for a while.
Face to face, shoulder to shoulder, moving back in the underground, in the heat, couldn't get any closer, moving back in the underground. Face to face, shoulder to shoulder, moving back in the underground, in the heat.
But from glam rock with the band Ballard to Ace of Base, how
Yes.
did this come about?
Okay, I'd done pretty well financially with different things, with the music career, and decided I was going to record an album at Studio Bohus in Gothenburg. And that album, and I was paying for that myself now, because Glenn Marks they were packing in. Basically, they were going to move to France. They were going to sell the studios and everything. And so Air Music, what's his name, Lars at Air Music, he believed in it with the band, but they were a small company as regards, making things happen in Sweden. So it just, one thing led to another, and when you're doing 250 gigs a year, traveling, all of a sudden you kind of get a little bit tired of it, because we'd have to do small gigs and big gigs and small gigs and big gigs and to make a living. So I decided to start the studio, and then we got the studio going, and I put an ad in the paper in Göteborgs-Posten for bands or acts that were looking for help and recording, and Ulf Ekberg and Jonas Berggren turned up with a band called
Technoir.
That's right, Technoir.
I'm Mr. Ace, I'm running my base.
When she woke up late in the morning, like melody had just begun, she opened up her eyes and thought, hell, what a morning. Is there a day for what? It's the day for catching time, just lying on the beach and having fun. She's going to get all that she
they presented themselves, and I actually liked what I heard, because if you think about All That She Wants,
Yeah.
All That She Wants rhythmically is Scottish folk music. Okay, and you're going to say, no, that's not possible. What's he talking about? Well, the whole trick behind bands like Ace of Base is that you sing like 4 beats to the bar, and then you go over to 16 parts. Like, so if you think da 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 da, next bit da 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 da. You with me?
Yeah.
So now, and for me, being a folk singer from Scotland, I cannot say, no way, so don't think it this wrong way, that I wrote anything on the song All That She Wants. But what I did do was I helped rhythmically with them to get the beat, the kind of rhythm in the verses, because I'm going to sing 2 songs for you now. If I start with the one song, Ace of Base, verse, and then I sing the other song. Do you hear the similarity between the drunken sailor and the verses of All That She Wants?
Yes.
And that theme we used in almost every Ace of Base song. What you gonna tell your mama about the wheel of fortune?
What you gonna tell your dad? Like the wheel of fortune. What you gonna tell your dad if this wheel lets you down?
You can hear the Irish Scottish twang in that. That was really how I got going to it. And I loved working with Ulf and Jonas, very, very committed. What people don't realise is that for like a year and a half, they in particular, and me a lot, we sat and wrote songs, no success, no money, really, really, really working hard on it. And, we went to hundreds of different companies. Everybody refused Ace of Base. Everybody.
Yeah.
Even Ola Håkansson and even all the .com people, they can say what they want today. They turned us away.
She's got to be the queen of angels above. She's got to be a true angel of love. A stranger to love. Waiting for a sign to shine from above. A stranger to love. I have seen kings and queens, how they come and they go. See how they go. Every stone has a tale of its own. A magic can go. Mercy, mercy, gotta have pity on me. Have mercy on me. Look around me, everybody tell me what to do. Look around me, I only have eyes for you.
There are no guitars, guys. There are no guitars, and it sounds like a demo. I actually still to this day, with new artists that I'm working with, I say to them, just because some Stockholm companies or Swedish companies reject, they don't like it, it does not mean that there can be millions of people in the world who think this is fantastic.
My first relations to Ace of Base was the song Happy Nation, and I became a hardcore fan early on. And isn't it you who sing the backing vocals in Latin like a Gregorian monk?
To be honest with you, I think I'm singing on most of the Ace of Base songs. I loved backing vocals. I've always loved backing vocals. And I had a few fights with Jonas in particular, because he didn't like really backing vocals. But they're not obvious when you listen to it, like even with Happy Nation and all that. But we have lots of dubs on Marlene and Jenny, lots of dubs. And I think I've dubbed everything, which I love doing. And you could only really hear it if you took it away.
Happy nation, living in a happy nation, where the people understand and dream of a perfect man. situation, leading to sweet salvation. For the people, for the good, for mankind, brother. Happy nation.
Their first album broke all previous records and became the best-selling debut album of all time. But despite that, they were extremely poorly received by critics, especially in their home country, Sweden.
Yes.
What was it about Ace of Base that was not appreciated, do you think?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think you got to. They were the band themselves. They knew what they wanted, and you had a very strange kind of situation. Whereas so many meetings that we were at, where the record company, when they had deals, for example, and the record company said, "Okay, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do that and that," and the band would just say, "No, I don't think so. We don't want that." And so there was conflict, I must say. I don't know whether that kind of crept through to the. I'll be honest with you. I think I've met loads of A&R people in my life, and when you hear something new, you must remember that this was before drums and bass. There's no guitars, basically no guitars on the first 25 songs on Ace of Base. I don't remember ever there being a guitar. They didn't want guitars. It's a period when you've got Europe and you've got, Guns N' Roses, all the bands, all the rock, and you come in with something that sounds a little bit synthetic, I think.
Yeah.
You should, but they try that. I don't know how truthful I can be, but in those days, the business they were looking for people who really looked good. You wanted to be a model, or you wanted to be look like a film star. Either that or really charismatic, with exceptional clothes and etc. And Ace of Base were down to earth, ordinary people, and you must remember that Jonas and Marlene and Jenny are deeply religious, really, really deeply religious, and that also came through with different things. But the bottom line, I think, is that in Stockholm, I don't know if you know this, but even when they're number one in half of Europe, they could not get a record company to release their record in Stockholm. That's the truth, and I'll stand up in court and say that because I know I was there. And so what Mega Records had to do was to start their own office in Stockholm. To get a release. I mean, come on.
I remember this because Leila K was signed on the same record company. Yeah.
So I don't know. You'd have to ask all the big companies in Stockholm. I think they all just missed it. They missed it. They didn't hear it. What do they say in Sweden? Smaken is en baken. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. I don't know.
Well, you produced, composed, and sang on several songs for Ace of Base during their years as an active band. Why did they split?
I think number one, it's a question of economics, because initially these four young kids, they didn't realize that they're splitting even on the album, on the actual physical mechanical albums, their royalty, etc. But because Jonas and Ulf were writing most of the songs, and these songs were being played all over the world, the publishing money would probably exceed the mechanicals, and I think that was one of the problems. And I think I don't know. I think the girls weren't really ready for the Jonas and Ulf. They were bang into the success, and they wanted to tour and etc. etc. And there was always I was officially or unofficially, whatever you want. I toured with them quite a lot with them, and they were different. They were different, and there was always going to. And then so when it came to notice, or to the surface, that if you'd written the songs, then you were going to make more money. Then all of a sudden, Marlene and Jenny wanted to write songs on the next album.
I remember that.
And to be honest with you, I'm a songwriter.
They were not hits.
They were not as hit. And And I think you got to remember that I sat with Clive Davis, the man. I mean, he's discovered Whitney Houston and Bruce Springsteen, and the biggest man in the music business ever, Arista. I mean, he said to me, he said, you must write hits. You got to, people are not as clever as you think they are. Just give them a hit, give them something to sing along with and feel happy. And that's why Jonas and me wrote It's a Beautiful Life, which I'm not saying is the best song that I've ever written, but if it's probably the best hit that I've ever written. Still being played. I don't know if you noticed that on the advertising for Systembolaget in Sweden, it's actually the music they're playing is It's a Beautiful Life as they're doing the advertising.
De där. Och de här. Det är därför vi har lite annorlunda öppettider. Är åldersfixerade. Och faktiskt blir glada om du ångrar dig.
Watch it next time.
Yeah, I definitely will. But I know that Beautiful Life had been covered in several other languages around the world.
That's great.
As a hardcore Ace of Base fan, I must ask, what really happened with the blonde sister, Malin?
I don't know. I can't answer that, Emil. I think it's I tried everything to keep these guys together, because usually, I don't know what it's like, but usually when you've had a few years to think about things, you're only of that age and in that environment and got those things going for you once in your life. And as an adult man now, I'd say that if you've got 4 young kids about the age of 25 and they earn a lot of money, it's very difficult for them to think that they know better themselves, if you understand what I mean. All of a sudden I've made all this money, I'm going to make it all again and again and again, and that's not the way it works. But I had a great few years with it. Was very, very hectic, don't get me wrong. Jesus, the pressure we were under I can tell you one story, and that is that for album number 2, well, really, you had The Happy Nation was an album, really, and then the American version was The Sign.
Yeah.
But for the next album, for the Bridge album,
yeah,
we recorded about 26 demos. But when I say demos, we had not Marlene and Jenny singing on them. We had other singers coming in to do the demos, or I'd be singing, or somebody, whatever. But all basic prods, not the whole finished mix, but the ideas. And we sent these 26 songs to all the different record labels that had signed up for the next album for Ace of Base. Mm-hmm. And the amazing thing is that when we got back and we asked them to order them in order of merit, which 12 songs would you like on your album for Japan? Which 12 songs would you like for Germany? Which 12 songs would you like for Canada? Etc., etc. And you would not believe me when you saw the results. Because on the Japanese album, for example, none of the top 12 were in the American top 12. They wanted totally different albums. What they liked and what they heard was that, and that whole thing finished by Jonas and Ulf in particular, and to some extent Jenny and Marlene, said, okay, we'll go with our
18
12.
songs, I believe, was on the album.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. But a big red flashing light made it obvious to me that if I send a song to Korea, they may love the song. So just because I've sent it to the Americans and they don't like the song, doesn't mean that the song doesn't have a value, because the Koreans would love that. I had a very similar experience with my little band Bubbles. Mm-hmm. I recorded 10 songs. I spent a lot of money on Bubbles. I found these 5 girls. They went to dance classes, clothes, photo sessions, music, and I introduced and had meetings with about 10 or 12 of the biggest record companies, and they laughed at me. Nobody wanted it. Never worked, they said. Never work. 5 young girls and all those songs never work. And so I went to Mid-M and I got a deal in Amsterdam with a record company in Amsterdam, who not only took it, gave me a nice advance of money, and they loved it. And it became a massive success in Holland and France, South Africa, a pretty good success in Sweden too.
Yeah.
So they missed that as well.
Yeah. Although Ace of Base went like a bullet, Jonas Berggren, one of the bandmates Ace of Base, and the composer of the songs, started another band at the same time. Because why not? When you are the biggest band in the world, why don't have two? No, but seriously, the band was called Yaki-da, and you were involved in this band also.
Yeah.
They became pretty big too.
Yeah.
And I know you had worked with Marie Knudsen before, since you were, because she was the backing vocalist for the glam rock band Ballard.
That's right. You're well informed, Emil. You're well informed.
But I'm a fan of your music, so that's why.
I saw you dancing, and I'll never be the same again for sure. I saw you dancing, say Yaki-da, my love. I saw.
And as if writing music for two bands was not enough, Jonas also sent a song to Melodifestivalen in 1997 that ended last with 0 points, sung by the duo Fotogenik.
Yeah.
But that project, I believe, you weren't involved in?
No, absolutely not.
När din klocka klämt av 13 slag var det färdigt. Du dansade med nattens änglar. Ditt liv blev underbart, aldrig tradigt. Du dansade med nattens änglar. Rusade med nattens änglar. Lekte runt med nattens änglar.
I didn't like. I didn't. Let's get back to what I said previously. There, Emil, is that just because you get a shitload of money doesn't mean that you make every decision correctly. I think Jonas is a fantastic songwriter, and when I heard that he was asked by the Melodifestivalen to write a song, so he didn't send the song in. He was asked to write a song, and I heard a few of the suggestions that he had, and I thought why not? He wanted to do it all himself, produce it and do everything himself, as far as I know. As I never heard, I just heard it initially as a demo, and it's a shame, when you've got a good setup going for you, then I think you should stay with what you got, because your audience, if they've loved, which they did, Happy Nation, The Sign, all these there. Why not? Give them what they want, and that's why the breakup came with Arista and Claire, is that you're doing this reggae thing and it's working. You're the biggest kind of pop reggae band in the world. When people want to hear Ace of Base, they want to hear this kind of pop reggae, good melodics. Yeah. Give them that, and we can sell another 5-6 albums. But I don't know. I can't explain the girls in number one. I think it's unfortunately that because they were sisters and brothers and sisters. I think there was something going on there. I don't know.
Ace of Base were actually considered for the Melodifestivalen in the beginning or middle of the 2000, and the song that they had written for the pre-selection was Would You Believe? Did you know that?
No, never heard it.
Would you believe in us if I said to you, I want you? Would you believe in us if I said I do? I want you, I want you back to stay. There's the danger for you to overcome.
But have they? Is it still the original members then?
No, without Malin.
Yeah. See, Malin was magic, and a little trick of the trade is that originally when we did Happy Nation, Wheel of Fortune, all these things the pitch was too high for Malin, and when we dropped it down considerably, about 3 or 4 full tones down, then all of a sudden she had a wonderful richness to her voice that was special. And you hear it in all that she wants and all that. Is that, and the trick there is, I think one of the tricks is that almost anybody can sing along with those songs. It's in a key that most people can sing along with.
Yeah.
And I think the texture of Marlene's wrist, she had a magic, and I'll tell you one thing, and this is 100%, I'm the engineer, I'm the producer sitting there, and Marlene would come in and say, right, you've got 40 minutes, that's all I'm going to sing, so you better record everything, and then I'm going to a party, or I'm going to meet my friends, or whatever it was. So my God, and she sang it 3 or 4 times, and said, hey, no, bye-bye. And then, of course, hopefully I could, and in those days I was cutting tape, 2-inch tape. So you got one word there and one there and 5 words there and that. My God, the hours I spent cutting all that together. But we got it together anyway. And she definitely had a magic texture to her voice. And for me, and it was kind of, it was, I can't explain it. It was kind of laid back, but at the same time, you listen to me.
Yeah.
If you understand, I'm sure you do.
Well, obviously, it was pointless for you to submit songs to Sweden, but you have competed in Eurovision 5 times for other countries.